Recently, I did an interview with Peter Fast from Bridges for Peace in Jerusalem. During the interview, an alert went out and we had to go to the bomb shelter. Here's what happened.
Our contact, Rimonim, mentioned to us that these people are... Oh, hold on.
What is it?
Yeah, Jerusalem's probably going to be targeted.
So we're at the moment, we have a rocket attack?
Yeah, we have a rocket attack. The early warning has just gone off. We have potential missiles, so we have an early warning. We have a Bridges for Peace WhatsApp channel.
So are we actually going to go to a bomb shelter now?
Yes, we are.
Right, okay. So where is your bomb shelter?
It's just in the hallway.
Right.
When this goes off, we have to immediately vacate where we are and seek shelter.
Right.
So when you think about this, it's millions of Israelis all over the country.
So we're leaving your office now and we're going to a bomb shelter?
We have definitely done that. So we have an emergency WhatsApp that we've developed actually in just a little over 2 years ago. And so when these things happen, when sirens go off, when we get early warnings, we communicate with all of our Bridges for Peace community. We're about 60 people when you count children, spouses, and so that's what I've just done. And it is actually a blessing. The early warning system is something that's quite new. Because on October 7th, for instance, there wasn't an early warning system in place. Sirens just go off. And it makes everybody's blood pressure goes up. It gives anxiety. People struggle, especially the children, elderly. If you can imagine being in a high-rise building, or if you have to go downstairs and you're in your 80s, that's a real taxing situation. And so after each one of these cases, medical services have been dispatched to people helping with trauma and anxiety and stress, heart attacks, things like this that can happen. Right now, since June 13th, you have large shelters, public shelters all over the country opening up and other places being used as shelters, train stations, underground bus stations, things like this in Tel Aviv, Haifa, all over. So when the early warning goes off, you can imagine it's nationwide and upwards of 10 million people can be going into bomb shelters. And this is something that Israel's been living with in the shadow with for decades, actually, when you think of the disengagement from Gaza, when you think of Hezbollah, but it's just been ramped up since October 7th. And so this has become, in a way, our normal, which is abnormal to the world.
How long do you get from the warning, and will we hear the siren very soon at all?
Well, because we're inside the office building, we may not hear the sirens. If people in their homes, people out on the streets, things like that would hear the siren. A couple weeks ago at our Institute of Israel Studies, we had a siren go off. We were in a hotel. So we went to the bomb shelter. We didn't hear the siren, but it went off on our phones. And so we know that there's a missile attack. And so this is where we are. And this is what we're living with each and every day.
Yeah, it's strange. It's interesting.
It is very strange. It is very strange. And Israel as a nation is very resilient. The people are strong. The people are optimistic. The people love life. But even when you tick all of those boxes, they're still human beings. And so you get affected. Israelis have experienced suffering and trauma, grief, the unknown, hopelessness, all of that. Although we see an incredible strength in the nation of seeing the miracles happening each day, the nation is still here, despite all the enemies of Israel that have said, death to Israel and we're going to obliterate you. The nation is still here. And there are millions of friends of this nation all over the world. And we've also seen that Israel's war, we've seen this recently, Israel's war is also a war of the free world. And we've just seen that with the United States entering into striking Iran, is that, Iran's ultimate desire is not just to obliterate Israel or change Israel into something else. It is to export their ideology, their violence, their lawlessness, and their way of life and how they see things. Export that kind of end of the world mentality to the world and destroy Judeo-Christian civilization, Western values, and we see it all across the world.
Is it a worrying time for you now? We're in the bomb shelter. You've got family, you've got wife, you've got children. Are you worried for them at this moment?
My wife is an amazing woman and she's an incredible mother over our 3 kids. So I'm not technically worried about how she will handle this. The kids, just like Israeli children, have adapted to this.
They've got used to it.
They've gotten used to it. When they hear that noise of the early warning, even before the sirens go off, before I'm even in my bomb shelter, the kids are running there, even my dog. So we know exactly what to do. If the siren goes off, we shut the steel door to our safe room, and we just sit in there until the home front command gives an all clear. We will pray, we will read books, we will sing, the children will watch Winnie the Pooh, things like that. But it does, what is hard to deal with as a father is I know it is affecting my children, and that it will be every Israeli parent in this country. We're trying to be brave, we're trying to be tough, and we're trying to be resolute and press through this. But we still know deep down, every mother, every father, every grandparent, they know that this is affecting the children. And that's hard. That is difficult. Although this is Israel. This is where we live. This is the nation of Israel. We're not going anywhere. In fact, how many nations do you know of when they're at war? People typically flee. Well, in this case, 150,000 Israelis are trying to get back into Israel in the state of war. So that just shows, the Ministry of Transport just has done this operation to basically bring back tens of thousands of Israelis who are trying to get back to Israel. And that is remarkable. I don't know if there's any other nation like it.
Do your children...
So it's the Tel Aviv area.
Do your children understand what's happening? And do you sit down and talk with them afterwards about the situation?
Yes. Obviously, we don't go into the grotesque or violent details of what is going on, but we also don't want to insult their intelligence. My oldest is 11. My girl is 8 years old, and then I have a 4-year-old. So for sure, all three of them have a general idea. The older two, which is boy and girl, they have an idea. We clearly tell them what is going on.
So they sort of know there's a danger. That's why they're...
Yes, and they know probably even more than that. They know there is a nation called Iran, that Israel is not at war with the people of Iran, but with the despotic regime of Iran that oppresses its people and weaponizes their nation for war. And 80% of Iranians, roughly 80%, want an Iran without that regime. So the Ayatollahs who control Iran are rapidly racing towards nuclear weapons, and that's what has prompted the preemptive strike of Israel on June 13th. They were days away from weaponizing nuclear weapons, which would be their intended purpose from 1979, death to Israel, death to America. That those are their targets. They say it. They don't hide it. They're very public about that. Okay, so what we do have now is sirens going off northern Jerusalem right now. So, and you picture the sirens are going off in the whole Tel Aviv area, which means, the greater Tel Aviv area is nearly 5 million people. So you just picture this. Not a country in the world would ever tolerate this. And this was going on before June 13th with Israel's preemptive strike. The Houthis launching ballistic missiles, and the Houthis are a proxy of Iran. And so Israel has absolutely every right to defend itself and to wage war against destructive powers that are coming against it. And Israel, unlike many other countries that deal with war, Israel strives to discern between civilians and enemy combatants, terrorists. And which is why I mentioned earlier in our interview that Israel in their strikes in Iran are striking military targets and nuclear targets, whereas Iran has officially declared civilian targets to be worthy of ballistic missiles.
So are we getting the Jerusalem area? There's a rocket.
Yeah.
Is a rocket actually coming to the Jerusalem area, or they're just saying it could possibly land in this area?
So a ballistic missile goes basically, it's not just a normal rocket. They're like 20, 30 feet long, about almost 20 meters. And it goes up into the atmosphere, comes down. It's a higher, larger payload. And because the Iranians have been firing barrages, often 20, 30 at a time or more, there's also a danger of debris. So if Tel Aviv is the main target, these missiles have to fly over, if you think, they fly over Iraq, Jordan, and fly over the central Israel as they're heading to the coast, if Tel Aviv was a target. So when Israel or her allies intercept these things, these huge pieces of these rockets come down. And so it's not uncommon for them pieces to come down into civilian populated areas or even in the remote areas. But all of this has to be monitored.
It's 10:30 in the morning at the moment, but some of this has been happening in the middle of the night as well, hasn't it?
Absolutely. Everybody, I saw a funny meme of a picture of Moses saying, "Let my people sleep," right? And you've probably seen that as well. So it's like Israelis won't surrender, but we'll be all tired throughout the midst of this. And my wife just texted me that she's in our safe room. The kids are watching Winnie the Pooh.
Right. So how long do we have to wait here for?
Well, what happens is the missiles get launched. We get the early warning. There is an app called Zophar. There's other apps as well, and it can be in English and Hebrew. So I always recommend people to download it even if they don't live in Israel, because when it goes off, it reminds us to pray for Israel, to pray for the toppling of the Iranian regime and the Iranian people, to pray for the Arabs in this region, that they would get genuine freedom out from under these tyrannical regimes and these terror groups, and then to also pray for the people of Israel. And so when that goes off, Zophar will show a map of Israel in real time with all these little red flags, these little red banners, and each little red flag indicates a danger zone or an area that's threatened potentially by these missiles. Then after they'll be intercepted, the Home Front Command will give us an all clear, and they'll say you can leave your shelters. That can take 10, 20 minutes, but usually around an hour or a little bit less.
So you've got maybe like 100 little flags on the map of Israel. So this could be just one ballistic missile, but it could land anywhere within all of this radius.
Correct, yes. It looks a lot worse than it probably is, because it looks like... the truth is...
It looks like there could be 100 missiles.
Yeah. The truth is, yes, this whole area isn't being bombarded, but this is to save and preserve life and to give people enough time to get into shelter.
So at the moment, millions of Israelis will now have actually run to the bomb shelter. They will be in their bomb shelter waiting for the all clear.
Absolutely. Israelis, foreigners, foreign workers, tourists that got stuck here. Ben Gurion Airport's been closed. El Al moved all their aircraft away to protect them. Now they're doing temporary flights to bring in Israelis, and other nations are trying to figure out how to repatriate some of the people. I was reading earlier today that France is setting up flights from Amman to try to get 350 French citizens back to France that were stuck here. So it's kind of an interesting thing when you look at it. But
you say Israelis, but that actually means Arabs and Jews, doesn't it?
Absolutely. There's over 2 million Israeli Arabs that are citizens. Those will be Christians and Muslims. There's Armenians. There's people from all over the world. There's foreign workers. This affects absolutely everybody. Yeah.
So is this is a second salvo they've sent?
Yeah, up in the north. So far is it looks like the missiles are directly going to the north, but it puts the whole nation at risk. Maybe this is Houthis, because it's all down to Aqaba. So if the Houthis would be firing south and to north,
right?
Iran fires east to west. So
could it be Hezbollah from the north, or is it from the south?
Probably, I would think it's from the south. So in Haifa, the whole Carmel region is sounding right now. Northern Galilee, yeah. So it's a Seva Dome, which is the code red.
So this is a second salvo.
This is a second salvo.
So maybe what we've had, the first one was from Iran, and the second one is from the Houthis.
Yes, that's possible. The Houthis have continued to fire. I mean, everything is up in the air. It's like if Iran closes the Straits of Hormuz. This is, now it becomes, it's already, Iran is a global issue. It's like the West has had their head in the sand if they think that this is a regional threat. It isn't. It's not a regional threat. It's hard to narrow down certain reports because there's so much coming out. But I even read reports of Iran's desire to transfer some of these nuclear weapons even to Yemen. So that's a tactic in the past to get somebody else to do your dirty business, so that Iran could put up their arms. Hey, we didn't really do this. Dirty bombs and things like this. So Mossad is operating inside Iran. Obviously, globally, all of the intelligence services of Israel, the United States, and probably others as well, because Jordan has assisted at times. Saudi Arabia has allowed operations and cooperating because Iran is an enemy of Saudi Arabia. So that's the thing, is if the West believes that this is an Israel-Iran issue, they're extremely ignorant and naive, because it isn't. So this is a global issue. And that's why some people very boldly have said Israel preemptively striking on June 13th and then the U.S. coming in has saved tens of millions of lives. Because a ballistic missile can hit Israel. But why on earth would you develop an intercontinental ballistic missile? That's not for Israel. That's for Europe and North America. So this is the reality. And I guess, I think to a lot of people, especially liberal progressives, or the further you go left, is they're very uneasy when they consider that there is real evil in our world. This shouldn't be something new to us. The world saw evil at its zenith from 1939 to 45. And actually, we saw it earlier with Adolf Hitler when he wrote Mein Kampf. The whole world knew his desires and his agenda, and they chose to ignore it. And then we see what happens with the Holocaust in World War II, and then Stalin and the whole Soviet Empire. So the world is very familiar with evil and with the agendas of people. And so, it's that we can choose to ignore it, which will pay the price, or we can stand against it. And standing against it isn't fear-mongering or warmongering. Standing against it is justice, and it's doing what is right. And if we press hard enough and stand, we can actually carry something through to a level of peace. Peace can be achieved. But when you talk about tyrannical people, peace isn't going to be achieved by shaking their hands and believing them when they say they want to be nice.
So now that everybody's in the bomb shelter, this must be really bad for business. If you're a businessman, all your staff have just gone down to the bomb shelter. They're not working. So this must be costing business as well.
Yes, it is. And tourism industry is probably the hardest hit. But now we have the airline industry as well. All kinds of services. You've mentioned, Paul, in Bethlehem, with people out of business and not working and trying to... This something like this can't happen, and everything just kind of continues as normal. It will affect and impact the entire country.
So are we getting a third alert?
Perhaps. It's around the Gaza. So Hamas, they still do have some rockets.
So maybe Hamas are actually firing as well.
Yeah.
So maybe this is a coordinated attack with Iran, Hamas, and the Houthis, perhaps? We don't know that's true. But
Right. We don't know that's true. Yeah, Ashkelon, Sderot. So, we have Bridges for Peace. We have 23 communities all over the country. So on October 7th, some of our communities were directly attacked.
So is this a third alert?
Perhaps, yes. It's a home front command warning, and sirens have gone off in some of these areas. Netivot, Sderot, Ashkelon. Yeah. So we don't know the magnitude of this. Hamas really, they don't have the capabilities at all, like the Houthis in Iran has. They at this point, the Hamas can be a nuisance, although, even a nuisance, a direct hit with a rocket can seriously injure or kill. So as long as people in the south stay in their shelters, they'll be fine.
I imagine if there's a multiple front, it makes it very difficult for the Iron Dome to actually shoot everything down, because in some ways there's just too much stuff in the sky.
Yes, and that's the plan of Iran and these other proxies, is to overwhelm Israel.
Yeah.
So it's with the Iranian missiles that they've been firing. They're faster, they're bigger. The salvos are more intense, and so it's been about 70% successful interception rate, whereas with Hamas in the south, with their rockets, Israel was getting 95% interception. But Israel has also had over nearly a 98% interception rate with Iran's drone attacks. So that's really good.
So we've just came out of the bomb shelter, but this just shows how important technology is, because you got a message on your phone saying, find a safe place.
Yes, absolutely. Israel, above all, seeks to preserve life and to create order in the midst of what can be chaos. And I think that's just a phenomenal thing. Israel invests also in infrastructure to preserve life. And it's important to note, like, nowhere in Gaza do they have bomb shelters. They have tunnels that Hamas built. And in fact, Hamas will say the tunnels are for us. And the Gazans above the tunnels, well, that's the UN's problem. And so Hamas sacrifices their own people, and so that they can be preserved and continue, their reign of terror. And so Israel, bomb shelters have become a way of life. Safe rooms have become a way of life. Sirens, notifications, and procedures of what you should do. If you can't get to a bomb shelter, you're supposed to lay flat. Be away from a vehicle and lay flat, because 80% of the shrapnel goes upward. So if you're laying flat, your life can be spared.
So is there an update of what actually happened? And where were we getting this information from?
Yeah, so Israeli news sources, Jerusalem Post, I-24, are reporting that 10 to 15 missiles were fired. There were 35 minutes of sirens at various locations around the country. It looks like an initial report of a strike somewhere in the south at an electrical infrastructure facility. And so emergency services are responding, firefighting. Also Magen David Adom, which is like Israel's Red Cross, ambulance service, they're responding as well. And these were missile waves coming from Iran. That much is being reported, as well as large booms from the interceptions. So, yeah, this is each and every day, typically morning, sometimes afternoon, but mostly in the night. Barrages from 10 to 30 missiles. And it's amazing that it's getting a little bit less. And I think that's from what I can read in the reports and what is being released by the IDF, it's the further Israel strikes into Iran, destroying missile launching sites and factories, less and less do the Iranians have to launch. I think that's just like self-explanatory, as well as what the Americans are reporting as well. So, yeah.